Anyways, chick flicks sucks.
First of all, I hate chick flicks because it's always the same story.
In every single chick flick, the story is exactly the same, but there's always just some sort of twist on it. There's always a guy and there's always a girl.
They're so sappy. It's just the same rehashed stuff, just put in a different word.
Yeah, I want to talk about chick flicks.
Chick flicks. So many things I have to say about chick flicks.
I bet it is because they go through that monthly stage. You know what I'm talking about.
I mean, you got the chicks and you got the flicks.
I hate them so much. Don't make me watch a chick flick.
I know that there's girls who are just goo goo gaga over things like this, and yeah, those things just really are stupid and bother me, so...
If it's got Lindsay f***ing Lohan in it, or those two bloody sisters, twins, you know, if it's got any of them in it, it's gonna be a bleeding chick flick, don't you?
No, I saw her boyfriend, and she's like,
They make me rage because they're boring. Acting is usually awful.
Fucking chick flick!
And that's why chick flicks sucks.
Yeah, apparently there aren't any YouTube rants about chick flicks that weren't filmed on webcams in 2011, and in researching I haven't found many relevant articles that weren't published in the Katherine Heigl rom-com era, so maybe this isn't the most hot button issue, but I think it's fair to assume most of us have heard someone in real life or on the internet make fun of, insult, or attempt to discredit what we call chick flicks. It's not just movies either. As a general rule, anything that's popular with women or marketed towards them is climbing an uphill battle to be respected. I mean, that's why we have terms like chick flick or chick lit to begin with. A successful attempt to collectivize anything stereotypically girly so men know what to hate to be manly and women who aren't like other girls know what to hate to feel superior to the more basic of us. It's the adult way to say boys rule and girls drool. I can't actually confirm this, but Wikipedia says the phrase was literally invented by some kid in a schoolyard, and as my language arts teachers taught me, Wikipedia is a very reliable source. And listen, for the most part, I don't think it's well-spoken critics perpetuating this aversion to female-driven films. If it were, I'd be able to find a video essay about how rom-coms are the death of cinema. But most of film YouTube would agree hating an entire genre is, well, stupid. And while chick flick might not be a real genre, it serves the same purpose of categorizing similar movies. The real culprits are your everyday moviegoers who claim to hate chick flicks, but haven't really thought twice about why or what reasons they have to justify that opinion. You know, the guy next to you in line at the movie theater complaining that his girlfriend is making him see another chick flick. The girl in class who outwardly scoffs when you mention you like romance movies because she is just so much better than that. People hate chick flicks in the same way they hate country music, without much explanation and just because they do. This is why when people do try to explain their hatred, they just end up talking in circles on YouTube in 2011. In all of those videos from the beginning, of which I completed the entirety, I was only able to pick out one seemingly fair critique, which was that they're all the same. We'll get into that later. The rest of the time they were just sort of rambling aimlessly. To be fair, these videos were uploaded in the golden YouTube rant age where people just went on tirades for fun and without planning. I'm not like genuinely angry at these people or anything. They're just a good representation of what I'm talking about. This guy is really mad that his ex-wife made him watch Mean Girls or something and also thinks periods are to blame. This girl talks mostly about her specific problems with the movies Maid of Honor and Bride Wars, which aren't applicable to the whole genre. This girl does a reenactment with her fingers. Also, I stumbled upon this guy who talked about how he loves chick flicks and also the Spice Girls. I mean, we stan a legend. Now, before I put myself in a position to receive more hate comments than I'm already statistically likely to get, I'm totally not saying you have to worship every female-driven movie. I'm not saying if you don't love Legally Blonde, you might as well be Satan. I'm not even saying it's wrong to generally dislike certain types of movies. We all have preferences. I can say I prefer horror to action because, well, I do. You can say you prefer action to chick flicks because we all know ourselves and our tastes. Maybe you're less interested in relationship development and more interested in cinematography or tension or whatever else. What I'm saying is that we shouldn't be actively undermining and belittling a whole type of film that's just as valid as the rest of them. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh, it's like that movie.
What movie?
An Affair to Remember. Did you ever see it?
That's a chick's movie.
What actually is a chick flick? Well, what constitutes a supposed chick flick is more of a parlor game than a science, according to the New York Times. While I think most of us associate the term with romantic comedies, there's not really a definite definition as to what is or isn't a chick flick. Wikipedia says they're films dealing mainly with love and romance targeted to a female audience, typically used only in reference to films that contain emotion or themes that are relationship-based. But films like Lady Bird and The Shape of Water would fit that mold, yet still wouldn't be called chick flicks, so maybe Academy darlings are off limits, except for Titanic. If you Google chick flick, a whole myriad of movies pop up, ranging from romances to romantic comedies to musicals to fantasies to dramas, critically acclaimed and critically hated films. So I guess the only requirement to becoming a chick flick is having a female protagonist, except on somebody's IMDb list titled The Worst Chick Flicks of All Time, they've added Forrest Gump, so maybe girls just have to like it, and it has to be more commercial than Oscar bait. That's not complicated at all. This, my friends, is the first problem I have with people who claim to hate chick flicks. If a chick flick can be of any quality from any genre, and their only defining feature is that they have girls, are you not pretty much saying you hate female protagonists?
Who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Who is saying that?
Okay, that's a little unfair. I mean, chick flick haters are probably just as excited for Captain Marvel as the rest of us. They probably love movies like Alien or Halloween. So if horror, thriller, and action females are exempt from this, then it's safe to say another defining characteristics of chick flicks is being girly, as in tackling female-driven topics, being relatable to women, and so on. In which case, you might say the reason you hate them is because they aren't relatable to you. A man who's not traditionally feminine or a woman who's not traditionally feminine. My issue with this would be that I've never heard a feminine woman complain that she doesn't relate to chick flicks. All those movies about stereotypical boy stuff and boy feelings because we're just expected to put ourselves in the character's shoes anyway, which is pretty easy, actually. It's what minorities have to do when they watch movies about white people and what y'all should be doing when you watch chick flicks. You don't have to live a similar life to a character or relate to their struggles in order to sympathize with them. A couple of high-profile feminists have actually spoken against the phrase chick flick altogether, sometimes saying it makes an unfair assumption that all women are interested in romance and such, other times saying it's an excuse to demean films with merits beyond their target demographic. Now, I think both of these things are true, but I wouldn't say I have a problem with the term chick flick as much as the perception of it. I don't think the phrase is inherently saying all women like this as much as a lot of them do. My issue is that people don't use it as a descriptor as much as they do an insult. Calling something a chick flick has developed some connotations of calling it inferior. My problem is the assumption that movies by women for women or loved by them can't also be good movies. The thing is, I wasn't aware of this cultural bias until probably high school, and I didn't realize how much it affected me until recently. I bet some people watching this still haven't really bought into the idea that there is one. It's not like people run around saying, I hate everything girls like, so the animosity flies under the radar, but just think about it. All the bad action movies in the world couldn't make someone disown the whole genre. We have to hate it because it's for girls. This belief is so ingrained in our culture that directors have been known to fight against the perception of their films as chick flicks because they want to be taken seriously. I guess my question is, why can't chick flicks be taken seriously? This assumption that female-driven films are lowbrow and unworthy of praise has basically bullied chick flick lovers like myself into referring to our favorite films as guilty pleasures, which is actually the phenomenon that caused me to make this video. You see, I've been planning to make a video about guilty pleasures for a while now, which would essentially be me listing things that I know are bad but that I like anyway. And for the longest time, chick flicks was listed in my notes for that video, but I've had this crazy epiphany that maybe chick flicks are capable of great storytelling. You guys are just mean. Just to be clear, my saying this doesn't mean I think every chick flick is a masterpiece. There are definitely still some of them I would consider guilty pleasures independent of the genre. I'm just trying to point out that there's nothing so inherently wrong about a female-driven story with an emotional theme that means it can't be of quality. I mean, what's actually so wrong with them as a whole?
Always the same story.
In every single chick flick, the story is exactly the same, but there's always just some sort of twist on it. There's always a guy and there's always a girl.
They're so sappy. It's just the same rehashed stuff.
that. The people featured here don't do a great job of justifying this complaint. This girl says there's always a boy and there's always a girl, which is like just how movies are. The others don't actually elaborate and just say it like a fact, but I do think there's a little more merit to this critique than these people give it. It's basically a resentment of cliches and tropes, which I'm very familiar with because it's like half of what I complain about in my videos. And I agree to a certain extent. Like, do we really need another white background red text rom-com? And yeah, maybe movies should try to be original and refrain from using cliches unless they enhance the story. My problems with this critique are that it's exaggerated and not specific to chick flicks. So if you strip a story of all its details and uniqueness, of course you can make it sound awfully similar to another. Of course, if all you know about rom-coms is that they feature romance, kissing, and happy endings, they might all seem the same to you. But really, when you put these movies side by side, they are incredibly different, not just in their plots, but in their themes and characters. You can't look at this lineup and tell me they're all the same. You can't. And because chick flick is a super non-specific term, so many of these movies aren't even in the same genre, nor do they have similar tones. I would argue that action movies, and specifically superhero movies, are way more repetitive than chick flicks. They do get criticized for that a lot, so I'm not calling it a double standard. I'm just pointing out that perhaps sameness is a product of genre in every case. Horror cliches, comedy cliches, drama cliches, and romance cliches. So why does it seem like the only genuine argument people have against something they hate so much? Why, with such little and poor reasoning, is there this general distaste for chick flicks?
They'd never get this movie. I know.
A huge portion of what I watch on YouTube is film analysis and critique, and that's what my channel is as well, but I've always felt sort of disconnected from it. Like I'm floating in the space between anonymous opinion channels and actual film channels. I've never really been comfortable reaching out to other channels or following them on Twitter because I have this weird fear that people aren't going to take me seriously. I'm starting to realize that's because I talk about girl stuff. My videos aren't about The Last Jedi and Infinity War. My audience is 85% females my age. My favorite movie is Mean Girls. Does any of this mean my opinion is less worthy than the general male-dominated film YouTube? No, and it's not like anybody has specifically made me feel that way either, aside from the odd comment here or there. It's just this general cultural dismissiveness of stuff girls like that's made me scared to take myself too seriously or ever really be confident in my content. I was already halfway through writing this video when I looked up my name on Twitter, as one does, and stumbled upon a conversation about how film YouTube is mainly dominated by the same type of person, which eventually led to my name being mentioned in a list of more diverse suggestions, saying I unapologetically cover stuff targeted at young women in depth, which is refreshing. This not only really flattered me, but also helped me realize why I actually wanted to make this video, which is that I'm tired of feeling ashamed of covering mostly chick flicks. Hopefully I've made my point by now, but there's nothing inherently wrong or inferior about them. So why have I always felt like my covering them makes me silly? Why shouldn't I embrace it as my unique taste and perspective? This video marks the day I have officially decided to embrace my overt girlishness. Welcome to my channel where we only talk about bras and tampons. In conclusion, can chick flicks be bad? Yes. If you've seen my channel, you know I know this. However, they don't have more potential to be bad than any other movie. Can they be repetitive? Sure, but not more so than any other genre. Is it fair to say chick flicks aren't your thing? Guess so. Is it fair to say chick flicks are stupid and make people feel bad for liking them? No, that's mean. Have a good day.